Most manipulation fails for one simple reason. The person tries too hard. They pressure, they argue, they push their idea, and people immediately feel something is wrong. But the most effective manipulators do something completely different. They almost never push. Instead, they plant an idea. They present a small suggestion, a subtle interpretation, a perspective that appears harmless. And then they wait. Because once the idea enters someone else's mind, something interesting happens. The brain begins to treat the idea as its own. People naturally defend ideas they believe they discovered themselves, not ideas that were forced on them. This is why subtle manipulation can be extremely powerful. The manipulator never appears controlling. They appear thoughtful, reasonable, even helpful. They may say something like, "I could be wrong, but maybe the situation looks like this." Or, "Another way to look at it might be." Notice what is happening. The suggestion is introduced gently. There is no pressure, no confrontation, no obvious agenda. But the moment the listener begins exploring the idea, the psychological shift begins. The brain starts constructing reasons why the idea might make sense. Once that process begins, the person is no longer evaluating the idea objectively. They are participating in building it. And when people help construct an idea, they become far more likely to accept it. Skilled manipulators understand this dynamic very well. They rarely argue directly. They guide attention. They highlight certain details. They quietly ignore others. Instead of controlling the conversation openly, they control what people focus on. Over time, the listener begins connecting the dots, but the connections feel self-generated. That is the moment the manipulation becomes invisible, because the person believes they reached the conclusion independently. Observant individuals often notice a pattern in these situations. Certain people never seem to argue aggressively, yet conversations often end with their perspective becoming dominant. That is usually the signal: influence without visible effort. When someone repeatedly guides conversations without appearing to push, careful observers begin examining the structure of the interaction. Not just the words, but the direction of attention. Because manipulation rarely forces agreement, it simply guides how people interpret the situation. And once attention is guided in a specific direction, the human mind often completes the rest of the story on its own.